Erum for Altenew, and today I have 3 cards to share with you. This video is part of a stamp focus post, and the stamp that I'm featuring on my cards today is the Engraved Flowers Stamp Set. This stamp is so beautiful. I know I say this for all the stamp sets that I use, but come on, look at it. And when I stamped it for the first time, I was awed by the crisp, clean outlines. So for my first card, I wanted to use the stamped image as is. I stamped out all the images on white cardstock with black ink. After this, I die cut the images out with coordinating dies. Since I'm not going to color the images, I'm using a regular cardstock. I'm going to arrange these on a white card base just to get an idea where a particular element would look better, and then I realized that it doesn't matter. It will look good anywhere I put the pieces. So these die cuts, I adhere them with foam tape and then cut off the extra bits that are going off the edges. I've done this previously in my videos several times, and so you know that my next step is to pick up a couple of the extra bits, the ones that are reusable that is, and adhere these onto the areas that seem a little empty or unbalanced. So with my card front done, now I'm die cutting the sentiment with my awesome mini blossom machine. I'm using the fine alphabet die set and die cutting the word hugs in a very bold pink cardstock. I will be stacking the letters to make them chipboard-like. That always ends up looking good, but first I will make them ombre. This might not be visible in the photos, but I used raspberry dye ink to do a bit of ink blending on the top half of my alphas. Oh, and I'm using the very handy watercolor palette. It's really helpful. The smooth surface helps in ink blending, and you just need to clean it off with a wet towel or whatever you use to clean your surface. Okay, so the first card is almost complete. I'm going to adhere the letters on my card front, and that is it. You can try this with colored cardstock. You can do heat embossing or even color in the images. There are so many possibilities with just this one card design. For the second card, I chose to go the gold embossing and watercoloring way. I will stamp a couple of images from the Engraved Flowers Stamp Set with clear embossing ink and heat emboss these in antique gold. After heat setting these, I thought I'd use the watercolor brush markers, the Spring Garden set, and from this the colors that I'll use for the flowers are Rubellite and Midnight Violet. What I'm doing is I'm applying Rubellite directly onto the petal closer to the flower center, and then I add a smidge of Midnight Violet. The reason I added a hint of Midnight Violet is so that I end up with 2 tones on the petal. I will then use a water brush to spread this till the tip of the petal. For the last petal that I will color, it's actually the underside of the petal, so I'm going to keep this light. There's nothing much to it. It's easy watercoloring. You can definitely see that I didn't really add a lot of detail, but it still looks good. For the leaves and the stem, I'll use moss and limeade. I know the leaves have these cutouts, but I'm going to color those in for this card since I want this to be a quick watercolor session and I don't want to be very careful while watercoloring. I always try my best to create very different looking cards from each other for my stamp focus post, so you have an idea how versatile the stamp in focus is. And Engraved Flowers is gorgeous. You can use just one of the stamps from this set or all of them on one card. And there are 8 individual elements, so you can create a lot of different looking cards with it. I had so many ideas really, and I was so short on time that I couldn't incorporate all of them in the video. But I'll have more card samples using this stamp set in the near future. And it's not only the floral elements in the stamp set that are beautiful, the sentiments are great as well with a very delicate look. The other flower that I'm going to color is going to be in Warm Sunshine and Autumn Blaze. First, I'll apply Warm Sunshine onto the petals closer to the flower center and use a water brush to spread it around. To apply Autumn Blaze, first I'll smear a little bit of it on the watercolor palette and then pick up the color with the help of a water brush. If I think the petal needs more orange, then I'll add autumn blaze directly onto the images. Dilute it with warm sunshine and then further dilute it with water if needed. After I'm done with the watercoloring, I'll die cut the images and then further alter the die cut so I can make a bouquet and arrange the pieces to my liking. Now I'm going to work on my background, and for this I'll just scribble some vertical brush strokes with the evening grey watercolor brush. I'll spread some water on this panel so the pigment spreads on its own. To soften the areas where the water spray did not hit, I will take my water brush and blend those areas little bit. After the panel is dry, I'll add splatters from the evening grey watercolor brush directly and then add black paint splatters as well. Once dry, I'll arrange the elements to build my bouquet and then add a few more black paint splatters. For my sentiment, I chose to heat emboss one of the sentiment stamps in antique gold on black cardstock. I'll cut this to size, leaving a bit of space on the lower edge, as in below the sentiment, and adhere gold glitter tape on one edge. This is something that I love to do. It looks really pretty and add a bit of sparkle to your project. Not that we are lacking any sparkle. Hello, all that gold embossing is sparkle enough. But this works and I like it. You can leave this bit out if you don't like it. Okay, so the second card is also ready. If you want to change the look but use the same layout, you can use white heat embossing. That changes the look completely. You can also color with artist markers instead of watercolors. The artist markers always look great. Speaking of artist markers, let's move to the third and the final card. Oh, I love the artist markers. I cannot have enough of them. I kept my third card simple. I'm using the Crest Solar White cardstock for my card front. I will stamp one of the single stamped flowers onto my panel with permanent black ink, and I leave it hanging in the air a bit because I'll be drawing a line or a border where my stem ends. I'm using the Red Sunset collection of artist markers to color the petals. I'll start by adding the darkest color first, which is R217. This will help me in showing depth on the petals. I'll blend this out with R206, which I'll further blend with R301. In the end, I'm going to use blush R400 to smooth the lines. For the green portions, I'll use the Green Fields Artist Marker set. I will leave you with a bit of music. I'll be right back. I'll now draw a border, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be straight. It never is. I'm using the jet black artist marker for this. Next, I'll color the background. For that, I'll start with warm sunshine and then blend it out with buttercream as horizontal strokes. This is not a smooth, clean look. The lines will show, and if you don't like that, I'd suggest you make a mask for the flower and then either do ink blending or airbrushing to get a smooth look. I don't mind. I love the faux texture. I think it adds a lot of character to the card. And now I'll add fake dimension by adding a shadow to my black border. I'm going to use evening gray and then blend it out with morning frost. I'm going to add more of this WG03 where I want to show shadow for the flower. It does make a lot of difference even though I used it only in some places. To finish off, I'll add black paint splatters and stamp a sentiment, and I'm done. Let me show you this up close. How awesome does all that depth looks? I love artist markers. And that is all for today, friends. You can find the project details on the blog. Link is in the description. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for watching. Bye.